Welcome to Simply Explained English. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
Okay, today we'll listen to a podcast about active and passive listening.
Let's listen to it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm Mark.
And I'm Emma. It's great to be here with you all today.
We're diving into a really important topic for language learners, active listening versus passive listening. Many learners spend hours listening to English, but they feel like they aren't improving as fast as they want. Sometimes, how they listen makes all the difference.
Exactly. So, what is the difference? Let's break it down. Mark, how would you describe active listening in simple terms?
I think active listening is when you really pay attention. It's not just hearing noise. You listen carefully to understand. You might notice new words or how people talk. You're really thinking about the English.
Yes, that's a great way to say it. It's like you are carefully looking for things like new words or how people say things. Maybe you write things down or you stop the audio to think or check a word. You really focus.
Definitely. So, what about passive listening then?
Passive listening is more like having English on in the background. Maybe you're listening to music while you cook, you're driving, or cleaning the house. You can hear English, but your main focus is on something else.
Yes, it's more about just hearing the English sounds around you. You are doing other things at the same time.
Precisely. In fact, I'm not saying passive listening is useless. It actually has its own kind of power, even if it's different from active listening.
Okay, tell us more about that. How can passive listening help while you're not paying close attention?
It's like how babies learn their first language. They don't study grammar books. They just hear people talking around them all the time. They hear the sounds and common words again and again. Passive listening is a bit like that. Your brain is still learning, but maybe slower.
That makes sense. It's like absorbing the atmosphere of the language. Actually, I read about a study, I think it was a PhD study from around 2007, that mentioned something similar, that people can pick up word sounds and patterns subconsciously just by hearing them.
Yes, passive listening feeds the brain those patterns, even when we're busy doing other things.
But Emma, you still believe active listening is crucial for real progress, right?
Oh, absolutely. Passive listening gets you used to the sound of the language, but active listening gives you understanding and the ability to use the language. Passive listening is about what you hear. If you're really interested in a topic like football, you'll naturally listen more closely, even if you're doing something else, like washing dishes.
Ah, I see. So if the content is really interesting or relevant to you, your passive listening can become kind of semi-active because your brain is naturally more engaged.
You got it. Think about listening to something you like. Maybe it's about your hobby, like gardening, or it could be an interesting story. You'll process the language more deeply. This works even when you listen passively while doing other things. Why? Because your interest makes you pay more attention.
That's a great point. So choosing listening material is important for passive listening.
Definitely. Let's get back to active listening. Why is it so effective? Well, research supports this. A study from 1996 found something important. Active listening did much better on listening tests and other tasks.
How did they teach them to listen actively? What kind of techniques are we talking about?
Great question. Active listening techniques involve doing something specific while you listen. For example, taking notes, writing down key ideas, new vocabulary, or questions you have, summarizing, Pausing the audio periodically and trying to summarize what you just heard, either out loud or in writing. Predicting, trying to guess what the speaker will say next. Shadowing, repeating what the speaker says, trying to copy their pronunciation and intonation. Answering comprehension questions. If you have questions about the audio, try to answer them as you listen. Using a transcript, reading along while you listen, or listening first and then checking the transcript to understand difficult parts.
Those sound like real workouts for the brain. It's clear why that would lead to better understanding. You're forcing yourself to listen deeply.
Exactly. It's deliberate practice. You're grabbing the listening, examining it, and doing something with it. This builds what we call explicit knowledge.
Explicit knowledge?
Explicit knowledge is the stuff you consciously know and can explain, like grammar rules, vocabulary definitions, and how to structure a sentence correctly. You can recall it and use it deliberately.
Okay, so active listening helps you learn the rules and the words you can consciously use. What about knowledge from passive listening then?
Passive listening helps you develop a feel for English. You start to have intuition about what sounds right. You might not know why something sounds correct or incorrect, but you can sense it. This type of listening helps you become familiar with English sounds, rhythms, and common patterns.
So, the best way is to use both. Active listening helps us speak correctly, and passive listening helps us sound natural and understand better.
You've hit the nail on the head, Mark. That's the key takeaway. It's not really about choosing one method over the other. It's about finding a balance and using both strategically.
But people are busy. How can learners find time for both kinds of listening? It sounds like active listening takes a lot of time and concentration.
True, active listening needs some focused time, but not hours every day. The best way is to mix active and passive. Use passive listening when you can't fully concentrate, like commuting, exercising, or doing housework. Let it be background noise.
Okay, so use the dead time for passive listening. Then what?
Then, find short times for focused, active listening, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, a few times weekly. Sit down with no distractions. Pick a short audio clip like part of a podcast or a song. Use an active listening method.
So maybe listen passively to a whole podcast episode while driving, and then later actively listen to just a 5-minute section of it with the transcript?
Perfect example. So first, you get general exposure. Then you focus deeply on a small part. This helps you understand better and learn specific things. It also helps you remember what you heard passively.
That sounds much more manageable than trying to actively listen for hours. Quality over quantity for the active part.
Exactly. And remember the engagement factor. Choose topics you love for both types of listening, but especially for active listening. It's much easier to concentrate when you're interested.
So, Emma, what are some practical tips you can give our listeners, especially from your experience running your own English learning podcast?
Sure. Here are a few quick tips. First and foremost, during active listening, you need to take notes, summarize, predict, shadowing, answering comprehension questions, and using a transcript, as I said earlier. Then, a general approach. 1. Rotate your methods. Don't just do one thing. Mix passive listening with active listening. 2. Focus on your interests. Find podcasts, audiobooks, YouTube channels about topics you like. 3. Be patient and consistent. Improvement takes time. Don't get discouraged. Small, consistent efforts with both active and passive listening will be useful significantly over time.
These are great tips, Emma. The key point is that passive listening, which is also very useful, helps you become familiar with English. But to improve your vocabulary, grammar, and understanding, you should also set aside time for focused, active listening. This engagement with the language will lead to real progress.
Precisely. Use passive listening to fill the gaps and surround yourself with English. Use active listening to deliberately build your skills and knowledge. It's this combination that often leads to the best results.
It's about making your listening time work smarter for you, depending on the situation.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that was a really insightful discussion, Emma. I hope our listeners found it helpful and feel more confident about how to approach their listening practice.
Me too. Remember, everyone, experiment and find what works best for your schedule and learning style. The most important thing is to keep listening.
Absolutely. That's all the time we have for today on our podcast. Join us next time for more tips and discussions.
Until then, happy listening.
Bye-bye.
Okay, great podcast. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, very useful. Listening is very important. Both active and passive listening can take English learners to the next level in their English journey.
Agreed, Eric. Okay, well, let's start with today's words. What are they, Eric?
The first word today is consciously. Then we will continue with be relevant to and count for. Then first and foremost. And the final one is hit the nail on the head.
Let's start with the first word.
The first word is consciously.
Consciously.
It comes from the word conscious. Consciously means doing something with awareness, intentionally or deliberately. You know you are doing it and you mean to do it.
So it's the opposite of doing something accidentally or without thinking.
That's a great way to put it. It means you know about the action while you are doing it. Let's say someone wants to improve their finances. He consciously decided to save money every month.
So he didn't just save money by chance. He made a decision and planned it.
Precisely. Here's another one. She consciously chose the healthier food option instead of the cake.
She thought about it and made an intentional choice. Okay, I get it.
Now, let's think about the grammar. Consciously is an adverb, so it describes how an action is done. It usually comes before the main verb or at the end of a sentence. For example, I consciously decided, or I decided consciously.
What about formality? Is it very formal?
It's quite neutral, maybe slightly more towards the formal side than just saying on purpose, but you hear it in everyday conversation too.
Okay, well, I think we've explained consciously pretty well. Shall we move on to the next word?
Let's do that. The next word is be relevant to.
Be relevant to.
Relevant to means to be connected to or important for something specific. When something is relevant to a topic, it has a clear relationship with that topic. For example, this information is relevant to our discussion. It means the information is connected to what we're talking about.
I see. So when something is relevant to something else, there's a clear connection between them.
Exactly. Here's another example. Her experience in marketing is very relevant to the job. It means her marketing experience is important and connected to the job requirements.
That makes sense. So I could say, this article isn't relevant to my research if the article doesn't connect to what I'm studying?
That's right. You can also use it like this. The teacher asked us to only share comments that are relevant to the lesson. It means the comments should be related to what they're learning.
I notice we always use to after relevant. Is that important?
Yes, that's a good point. We always say relevant to something, not relevant for or relevant with. The preposition to always follows relevant when we're connecting it to something.
Okay, well, I think now our followers understand the phrase be relevant to better. Now, let's move on to our next word.
The next word is count for.
Count for.
Count for means it has importance or significance in a situation.
Okay. So if something counts for something, does it matter? It's important?
Sure. Imagine you're working on a group project. You could say, in a team, every person's effort counts for something.
So, everyone's work is important for the team's success.
That's right. Here's another one. Your opinion counts for a lot in our decision.
Meaning your view is very valuable when we decide.
Precisely. Or think about qualities. It doesn't always matter how much money you have. Sometimes kindness counts for more.
That's a nice thought. So, being kind is more valuable than money in that situation. It makes sense. So, being honest counts for a lot when making friends.
Yes, that's a perfect example, Lisa. Honesty is very important.
What about the grammar? Does count for need anything special after it?
It usually tells us how much importance something has. Like, count for a lot, count for something, count for nothing.
And you don't usually put another verb directly after count for in this structure. You focus on the thing that has value?
Yes, Lisa. It's correct.
Okay, well, I think now our followers understand the phrase count for better. Now let's move on to our next phrase.
The next phrase is first and foremost.
First and foremost.
First and foremost means above all else or most importantly. We use this phrase when we want to emphasize what we consider to be the most important point. For example, first and foremost, we need to ensure everyone's safety. It means that safety is the most important thing to consider before anything else.
I see. So it's a way to highlight the most important thing in a list or discussion.
Exactly. Here's another example. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my parents for their support. It means that thanking the parents is the most important thing the speaker wants to do.
So I could say something like, first and foremost, you need to complete your homework before playing video games.
That's a perfect example. You can also use it like this. The company is, first and foremost, committed to customer satisfaction. It means that customer satisfaction is their top priority.
I notice we often use this phrase at the beginning of a sentence. Is that always the case?
Good observation. While it's commonly used at the beginning of a sentence, you can also use it in the middle, like, she is, first and foremost, a teacher, though she also writes books.
And is this phrase formal or informal?
It's slightly more formal than just saying most importantly, so you'll often hear it in speeches, presentations, or formal discussions. However, it's still acceptable in everyday conversation when you want to emphasize something important.
Okay. Well, we've reached the last word today. What is the last word, Eric?
The last word is hit the nail on the head.
Hit the nail on the head.
Hit the nail on the head is an idiom that means to describe exactly what is causing a situation or problem. When someone hits the nail on the head, they say something that is exactly right or completely accurate. For example, when Sarah said we need better communication, she really hit the nail on the head. It means Sarah identified the exact problem.
Oh, I see. So it's like when someone says exactly the right thing about a situation.
Yes, Lisa, correct. Here's another example. You hit the nail on the head when you said he lacks confidence. It means your observation about his confidence was perfectly accurate.
That's useful. So I could say, my teacher hit the nail on the head when she suggested I need more speaking practice.
That's a great example. You can also use it in response to someone's comment like, "That's it. You've hit the nail on the head," when someone makes a very accurate point.
Is this something we use in formal situations?
This word is actually quite informal. It's an idiom we typically use in casual conversations with friends, family, or colleagues. You probably wouldn't use it in a formal essay or business report.
So, whenever someone makes an exactly right observation, we can say they hit the nail on the head.
That's right. It's a colorful way to say, "You're exactly right," or "That's precisely the issue."
Okay, well, that's it for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found the words helpful and the explanations easy to understand.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English.
And stay tuned. Bye for now.